Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. So thankful you're with us today. We're going to look at how to use the King James Study Bible, 2nd edition. Now, this has been through a lot of iterations. I think it started out as the Liberty Study Bible, then the Annotated Study Bible, then the King James Study Bible, and then King James Study Bible 2. Somebody told me it was actually the Falwell Study Bible at one time. But we're not going to do a review per se on it. I've already done that. It's been a few years, but you can still find it on the channel. And we've actually done a review on the full color edition of this too, and how to use. We're going to see how to use this. This is still one of the best study Bibles around, especially from just a biblical Bible believing standpoint. So copyright 1988, 2013, Liberty University, and then several things copyrighted by Thomas Nelson. And so the contributing editors, Ed Heinsohn, who I like a lot, Ed Dobson, Jerry Falwell, Freakson, Richard Patterson, former Southern Baptist head, Yarborough, Elmer Towns, like all those guys. So one of the important things in using this particular study Bible to maximize it and is just this front table of contents. This is really the so-called keys to the kingdom there. Because if you're looking for particular subject matter, that's where you'd find it. So let's say you just started in Genesis 1 reading. Of course, I'm going to show you how to use the center column reference, how to use the references at the bottom, the commentary. Great print, by the way. I think that's one reason this Bible sold so many copies. It's sold, it says, more than 2.4 million copies. That's an enormous amount, because I think Thompson Chains only sold a little over 4 million, Dake about 3 million. And so this hasn't been out nearly as long as those two and selling into the millions. I appreciate Sister Waldron zooming in and out. So it's got a little thing at the beginning on how to use the King James Study Bible. I'll show you a little bit of that. Now, one reason I'm doing this video is, believe it or not, these introductions on how to use it, some people, like map readers, can really get a lot out of that. To some people, it's just kind of confusing. So we're just doing this video to kind of alleviate the confusion a little bit, hopefully. At least that's the goal of the video. So we're still at the very front of this Bible. We're on Roman numeral 15, still how to use it. It's got special abbreviations. Okay, now this is an exceptionally handy part of this Bible, and it is doctrinal footnotes, and it is done topically. So let's say even if you're teaching a Sunday school class, maybe a home Bible study, a ladies' Bible study, a men's Bible study group, or even a pastor preaching, you have scriptures done by subject for you. And again, so many of the study helps are in good, they're not giant print or anything, but I would say they qualify for large print, even before the comfort print era at Thomas Nelson, which is so wonderful. 2K Denmark has done so much in helping the Bible reading experience. So this is very valuable. And then it's got something at the front about how to study the Bible, and it's kind of in a, what would you call it, a outline form. That's the word I'm looking for, is an outline form. And then it's got the wonderful, again, this is all at the front before you ever get to Genesis, God's answers to our concerns. Now, Thomas Nelson bought Jack Countryman years ago, and Jack Countryman had a book, God's Promises for Your Every Need, and then the sequel to it was God's Answers for Your Every Need. And this is something akin to that. Just one, maybe two scriptures, something like that, on various subjects. So you've got doctrinal footnotes, where to find it, what the page number you go to in here, and then this is just scriptures you would go to. I saw some more than two. And then a lot of Bibles do not have this, But this is excellent. It's an introduction to the Old Testament. So one reason, as I've mentioned, that this Bible sells so well is not only is it conservative in nature, but the larger print. And it's not that huge of a Bible. Like, I don't think it's as big as a Life Application Study Bible or a ESV Study Bible, something like that. Now, Thompson Chain date going to be thinner, but the print's going to be much smaller. I know some people, all they care about is the size of the Bible. They could care less about the size of the print. Most people care about the size of the print for the ultimate in the Bible reading experience. And so then it's got Genesis, it's got authorship, the date, very conservative in the dating of that. And then it's got an outline. Now, this is where you really get into a lot of the information of the King James Study Bible too. So you've got the outline, and we're going to show you some things here with how to use the commentary, how to use the center column reference. So we get to the center column reference, and like in Genesis 1:1, there'll be a little a, a little b, and then in the center, you'll see a, and then you'll see B as well. I don't know if Sister Waldron can zoom in on that right here. But basically what you're doing in the center column reference, like that's Genesis 1:1, you go to the center column reference and it's 1:1. And then in the text, and this is really the only part of this Bible that's small print, are those little letters. Lowercase a, lowercase b. And that is how you use the center column reference. Now at the bottom, you'll notice 1:1, 1:2, 1:3, 1:4. That is commentary on all these verses. Now it doesn't have commentary on every verse, or this would be several volumes long. But it does on several of the verses. And then at the bottom, you'll see a key about the Holy Spirit. That goes back to the key notes we were in the very first. So the introduction to the Old Testament, introduction to Genesis, the outline of Genesis, then a center column reference, then commentary notes, and then doctrinal notes. Fantastic. Now, not every page is that busy. Now, it also has some of the best, boldest in-text subject dividers I've ever seen, like third day, fourth day, sixth day, creation of man. And so those are not inspired. Those are just to help with reading, knowing what's coming next, finding it if you're trying to hunt. What was the fifth day? Where was that at? You can instantly find it. It serves a lot of purposes, but they're not inspired. It does help with outlining if you want to come up with your own outline. And then every verse basically is going to have the center column reference and then the commentary notes at the bottom. And so that's really what carries this Bible. It's got some ancillary things like we've already seen, God's answers to man concerns and all this. But the real crux of this Bible are going to be biblical introductions, outlines, commentary, and then the center column reference. And I'm just turning at pages at random. Now, something else this Bible has, it has 60-something, if I've counted correctly, of these in-text maps, which I really appreciate, because these in-text maps, a lot of Bibles have between 8 and 16 maps at the back. Well, this, so often when the Bible will change geographical location in the text, it'll show you what's going on, or if there's a battle going on. So these in-text maps are, again, absolutely tremendous. Now, let's go between the Old and the New Testament, and we'll see there's some wonderful things there, because you have what's known as the 400 silent years between Malachi and Matthew. But this lets us know in great detail, but not overwhelming detail, what went on between the time of Malachi, about 400 BC, and the time of John the Baptist and Jesus, about 6 BC, give or take maybe a little bit. And so that is absolutely, it is worth it to read. I think it's 8 pages of history. It is worth it to read, because it kind of lets you know, you get to the New Testament and Jesus talking about Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, Herodians, Herod. There's a bunch of Herods mentioned, and there's a Herod that dies in Matthew 2, and then there's all of a sudden another Herod at the crucifixion of Jesus, and then there's a Herod with Peter, and there's a Herod that gets eaten by worms, and there's a Herod that listens to the Apostle Paul. Well, it kind of explains all that to you. And then it has an excellent harmony of the Gospels, 4 Gospels, and it's very intuitive, because it'll give you the event to the right, and then it'll just list, is it mentioned in Matthew? Is it mentioned in Mark? Is it mentioned in Luke? Is it mentioned in John? And where? Now that is, again, invaluable in Bible study, because each of the evangelists God has chosen to give different views and perspectives on different events. It also has dates. Now these dates can be a few years off, probably no more than 3 or 4 years off, maybe in either direction, but that also helps as well. And then it'll divide Jesus' ministry up into logical progression, like the last Judean and Perean ministry of Jesus in 42 events, the Galilean ministry of Jesus in 55 events, the beginning of Jesus' ministry in 12 events. So that's good. And you talk about great for teaching. That is fantastic for teaching. The resurrection through the ascension of Jesus in 12 events. Absolutely amazing. And then we come again with the New Testament, introduction to the New Testament, and again very conservative in the dating, like AD 40s for the writing of James, in the 40s through the 70s through Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the 90s for John. And then it gives the author, James, Matthew, Mark, Luke. It doesn't give all this, maybe they wrote it, maybe they didn't. And then the epistles begin in the 49 AD through 67 AD, Acts 60 AD, and then who wrote it again. Just very straightforward. Introduction to Matthew, outline of Matthew, and then we start once again into center column reference, headings, commentary in the bottom. I was looking for a map, and this particular one is red letter. I don't think you can get it not red letter. I think all of them come red lettered. Fascinatingly enough, almost everybody wants red letter Bibles. Some people don't. I knew a friend of mine who was very vociferous, a pastor in Mississippi, for buying, selling, and trading Bibles on eBay. When I say vociferous, he was just very, did it a lot, let me just say. And he said, when you didn't have a red letter Bible, you almost couldn't sell them because everybody wanted red letter. So we get through the New Testament, and we're almost 2,000 pages into the Bible. Not quite, though. We're at 1,934 pages, and now we come to another fascinating, very helpful study of Christ and the Gospels, a topical index. And notice that it is in large print, not giant print. There is a difference. Large print is smaller than giant print, but it is larger than normal print. And that's one reason. So this is how to use the King James Study Bible 2nd edition and to maximize your use. This cost maybe somewhere $30 or less. That's a big investment for people. And some people, that'll be the only study Bible they ever have their whole life. And so we just want you to get everything out of it. Like, where do you find the golden rule at? Matthew 7:12, Luke 6:31, serving, teaching, sheep, sin. Where do you get all this? And then teachings and illustrations of Jesus. This again, absolutely amazing, and it is in large print. So in my mind, in a lot of ways, the King James Study Bible 2nd edition sets the standard for modern study Bibles. I love the Life Application Study Bible. Of course, I get a lot of information out of Dake, even though he's got some error in there. But probably all these have error. You know, every man is my superior in some way, and that I learn of him. And Ryrie has some good things in his Bible. On and on. This is something that built my faith as a young Christian. Several pages, or at least a few, of messianic prophecies of the Old Testament fulfilled in the New Testament. And so it really built my faith to know that God could speak something hundreds of years anterior. And then in the book of Isaiah, he says, this is what proves I'm God. I know the end from the beginning. Now, this is another thing that is almost unique to this Bible, and it is an index to the Apostle Paul, the life and ministry of Paul. Now, I know at the back of the Thompson chain, they'll have the life and ministry of Abraham and different ones, but it's set up different, maybe in my mind a little more difficult to use, especially because of the smallness of the print of the Thompson chain. Even though they have a large print edition, it's a big Bible too. But this, if you're doing a biography or a study on Paul, this would be where to start. And then end times prophecy. You should know if Ed Hindeson's involved, they're going to have end time prophecy, and it's going to be pretty pre-tribish as well. But I don't know how overtly pre-trib this particular, Ed Hindeson and Thomas Ice, I think they run the Pre-Trib Research Center. A lot of good information there. I know many of you are not pre-trib. I do not think of that as any type of doctrinal division. Acts 2:38, oneness, love God, holiness. Anyhow, that's where I'm at. Monies, weights, and measures. That's fantastic. The Jewish calendar, liquid measures, measures of length. And then it's got a section, I won't show you this, but all the prayers of the Bible. So if you're going to write a book on prayer, that's where to do it. Now, talking about the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, of this Bible, this is yet another place, an alphabetical index to the annotations. So you come here, now this is not a concordance. There is a concordance, but this is not it. But let's say you're wanting to do a study and you want to know what the commentary is on it. This is where you would turn. So for the theological index, you'd go to the front. For just the commentary, you'd come to the back. And this is several pages long. It starts on page 1994 and goes through 2011. So 18 pages of that. And then the concordance with word studies. It has Vines, Strongs. This again is unique almost to this study Bible. And it is large print. So to find a concordance that's large print is extraordinarily rare. To find one that has over 200 definitions is even more so. So just absolutely fantastic. So you can see this is a handy, handy Bible. And then you get to the back. Let's see how many maps. I'm thinking there's 8, but there may be more than that. Does it tell me how many maps there is? Nope, let's just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. And they are Nelson's New Bible maps. They do not have the nation of Israel going through water like so many don't, and I really don't understand that. in the Exodus. So that is how to use the King James Study Bible, second edition. Now, one last thing on this, I just want to show you. The maps are gridded out